Equals it was a crisp Wednesday morning in Riverside Heights, and the sun was still shyly peeking over the horizon, casting a soft golden light that spilled onto my bedroom walls. I sat on the edge of my bed, the disheveled sheets still warming the spot where I had tossed and turned all night. I had been awake for hours, my mind racing through the events of the past 24 months like a broken record scratching the same old tune. Today was not just any day. It was the anniversary of the moment everything changed in my life. I took a deep breath, inhaling the familiar scent of the lavender air freshener that hung in the air, a pathetic reminder that some things were meant to smell nice, even if my life was currently anything but. The alarm clock beside me blinked, the numbers dancing in and out of focus. It read 6:30. I needed to get up, but every inch of me felt heavy with anticipation and dread. I shuffled to the bathroom, the tiles cool against my bare feet. As I brushed my teeth, I stared at my reflection in the mirror. My brown hair was a chaotic mess, and my green eyes looked tired, rimmed with dark circles that resembled the bruises of an unspeakable attack. But today it would be different. Today I would step into the light and take my life back. I finished brushing and turned on the shower, the steam curling around me like a comforting embrace, momentarily lifting the weight on my shoulders. I stood under the hot water, letting it cascade down my body, washing away the memories that threatened to pull me under. Today was for me a day marked in my calendar, a day of reckoning. I considered what was to come, the plan I had meticulously crafted toyed with my thoughts like a small child happily playing with a shiny new toy. I got out of the shower and stood in front of the mirror once more, towel clutched tightly around me. I needed to focus. Slipping into a pair of jeans and a simple white t-shirt, I felt a surge of strength. The fabric pressed against my skin felt like armor. I glanced at my phone as I programmed the day's reminders. It was now 7:15 and I needed to have everything in place before 8. I headed into the kitchen where the scent of brewing coffee permeated the air. I poured myself a cup, letting the steam warm my face and awaken my senses. It was beneath this comfortable yet brittle layer of normalcy that I dared to let the bitterness seep through. Just one more hour, I mumbled to myself, wondering if that was enough time to prepare. The clock ticked insistently on the wall, each tick an echo of my growing heartbeat. At 8, I would confront Derek. Derek Ramirez, my former best friend and the reason my life had taken a detour into a world of pain, deceit, and unfortunate choices. The idea of facing him sent chills down my spine, but anger surged in my veins like fire, invigorating the procrastination that had lingered like fog in my mind. I was ready, or at least I kept telling myself that. The memories flooded back, uninvited and unwelcome. 2 years before, Derek had been my rock. We shared dreams, secrets, and laughter beneath the starlit skies along the riverbank, moments that now felt like bitter echoes of a time that had slipped away. "We are unstoppable, are we not?" he would say, his smile always lighting up the room. I could hear the optimism in his voice, the way it wrapped around me like a warm embrace after a long day. But that optimism faded the night he chose to side with my ex-boyfriend, Jason. I could still remember sitting in the diner, the fluorescent lights buzzing over our heads, the air thick with the aroma of fried food and stale coffee. "Derek, I can't do this anymore," I had said, the trembling in my voice betraying the strength I tried to muster. "Jason is toxic, and you know it." "You're overreacting, Jenna," he had replied, leaning back in his chair, the wooden legs scraping the floor uncomfortably. "He cares about you, you just need to give him another chance." My heart shattered as every word escaped his lips. I had trusted him. I had believed in him and Jason, but believing was a foolish game I had lost. "It's easy to say that when you aren't in my shoes," I snapped, the frustration boiling over. I could see the hurt flash across his face, the way he furrowed his brow as uncertainty clouded his features. "You're my friend, I just want what is best for you." I buried my head in my hands, feeling like the walls were closing in on me. "Best for me, you're choosing him over me, Derek," I had shouted, feeling the daggers of betrayal slice through every ounce of our friendship. "Do you even comprehend what that feels like?" He remained silent, the tension palpable as if the air had turned to lead. I had stormed out, my heart racing as I knew the fight marked the beginning of the end of our friendship. I pushed those thoughts aside. There was no time to linger. I pulled my laptop from the kitchen table, intending to review my notes one more time. As I flipped through the pages, I felt a surge of determination. My fingers trembled slightly as I typed up the final details of my plan. I had spent months planning this day, the intricacies woven together like the prickly threads of a spider's web. I could feel the anger seething in my stomach like a boiling pot, ready to overflow. I intentionally chose my words carefully, piecing together the right order of confrontation, the confrontation that would either set me free or plunge me deeper into sadness. The rush of adrenaline swirled inside me as I heatedly typed about how I would expose him, uncover the layers of deceit that had shrouded our friendship in darkness. The words felt cathartic, like a purge that rippled through my spirit. I slipped my laptop back on the table and brewed another cup of coffee. I breathed in the rich aroma, hoping it would fuel the fire lighting up my soul. With a firm resolve, I grabbed my keys and headed towards the door. Just before stepping out, I cast a glance back at the narrow hallway lined with photographs of my life, snapshots of laughter, happiness, and dark uncertainties. The picture of Derek and me in the river, our faces bright with joy, caught my eye. It felt surreal that a moment that once brought me warmth now evoked memories of simmering rage. With a quick shake of my head, I forced myself to look away. Focusing on Derek wiped away the fog of sentimentality that swirled around me like a winter haze. I needed clarity, so I exited the house and stepped into the cold morning air. The chill bit into my skin, sending a shiver coursing through me, but I welcomed it as a reminder that the world outside was still moving and I was a part of it. I climbed into my car, the familiar scent of vanilla air freshener enveloping me like a second skin. As I adjusted the rearview mirror, I caught a glimpse of my reflection and knew I had a mission to complete. Pulling out of the driveway, I switched on the radio, tuning into a station that played my favorite songs, a mix of empowerment and heartbreak. The melodies wrapped around me like an old quilt, a comfort before the storm. It felt nostalgic, the music a portal to memories that felt both far away and near, like the very heartbeat thriving in my chest. Riverside Heights glided by, the houses adorned with blooming flowers, each color a kaleidoscope of life. But all I saw was Derek waiting for me at the coffee shop where we once shared thoughts of the future, laughter over whipped cream, and heartwarming conversations. It was a few blocks away, just off Main Street. My palms began to sweat at the thought of facing him, but that only fueled my determination further. I parked the car and took a deep breath, my heart pounding like a drum inside my chest. As I stepped out into the brisk air, my feet moved automatically, carrying me toward the entrance of the coffee shop. The door creaked open, and the familiar scent of roasted beans engulfed me. A wall of chatter hit my ears, laughter and warmth creating an inviting backdrop that felt like a lie compared to the storm brewing inside me. I spotted him sitting in the far corner, his brown hair glinting under the fluorescent lights, looking impossibly relaxed, as if he did not bear the weight of everything he had cost me. My breath hitched, the tension rising. I walked hesitantly toward him, each step intensifying the adrenaline coursing through my body. As I approached his table, I noticed he was scrolling through his phone and completely unaware of the tempest brewing behind me. For just a split second, I felt the weight of our shared past weighing heavily on my heart. "Jenna," his familiar voice broke through my thoughts, snapping me back to reality. He looked up, shock washing over his features as if my presence startled him. "What are you doing here? We need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady as I slid into the chair opposite him. I was surprised at how calm I sounded compared to the raging storm inside of me. I felt like I was watching myself from a distance, an out-of-body experience as I prepared to confront the person who had betrayed me most. For a moment he just stared, unsure of how to respond. "Sure, but is everything okay?" he inquired cautiously. I could feel his resolve beginning to crumble, and for a fleeting second I felt almost guilty. But that feeling disappeared swiftly, replaced by the overwhelming fury that simmered just beneath my skin. "No, Derek, everything is not okay." My heart raced, pounding like a wild drum echoing against the walls of my chest. I would say what needed to be said. The past would meet the present in this small coffee shop, and there would be no turning back now. I could feel the heat radiating off my skin as I stared into the mirror, a cascade of emotions swirling inside me. My reflection seemed foreign, a mask worn for the very first time, and deep within, unease mixed with exhilaration. It had been 3 days since I had set my plans in motion to get back at Mark. The betrayal festered in my chest like a lingering wound, and every moment that passed only intensified my longing for a reckoning. I shook my head, clearing my thoughts just enough to pull myself together. The last thing I wanted was to appear weak or uncertain, not when I was so close to finally making Mark pay. My fingers deftly brushed through my dark hair, the strands catching the early evening light like wisps of hope dancing on a breeze, a grim reminder of the role I now had to play. I had a meeting with Claire tomorrow. She was the kind of person who radiated confidence, a whirlwind of charisma that could easily win anyone over. She would be my accomplice in this little game, and I needed her on my side. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding rhythmically against my ribs, thinking about the one piece that I had been missing all along. I swiftly grabbed my phone, scrolling through my contacts until I found Claire's name. My thumb hovered over the screen for a moment, debating if I should text or call. I chose the latter, mostly because I needed to hear her voice the way it always brought a sense of clarity. After a few rings, Claire picked up, her voice instantly igniting a sense of determination in me. "Hey Jenna, what's up? You sound a little off. Is everything okay?" I leaned against the cool bathroom counter, getting comfortable in my own skin as I prepared to unleash the storm brewing inside me. "Claire, I need to talk to you about something." "Important," I said, my tone serious, and I could almost feel her tension building through the phone line. "Should I be scared, or is this something fun?" Claire's laughter danced through the air. I appreciated her lightheartedness, but this was no joke. "It's not exactly fun. Remember how I told you about Mark and his unfaithfulness?" I could almost hear her frown through the line. "Yeah, that ass, you deserve so much better than that. Are you okay though? Have you talked to him?" I scrunched my eyes closed, biting my lip hard enough to taste the blood. "I haven't talked to him yet, but that's where you come in." A pause followed, and I could sense the wheels turning in her brain. How do I fit into this? Her curiosity had piqued, and I smiled despite the hurt carving through me like a knife. "I need you to help me orchestrate everything. I want Mark to feel the weight of what he did, and I want him to regret it for the rest of his life." Jenna, don't do anything rash. Revenge rarely gives us the satisfaction we think it will. I could picture her fretting, the concern in her voice evident, but I had come too far to back down now. This isn't going to be a typical revenge plot, Claire. I have a plan. There was a charged silence that felt as heavy as the atmosphere before a thunderstorm. Okay, I'm listening. What do you have in mind? I want to throw a party this weekend, make it a big deal. The whole neighborhood will know about it. All right, I could help you with that, but how does this tie into Mark? By the time this is over, I want him to realize he lost the best thing he ever had. My heart raced at the words, the satisfaction swirling through me as I continued laying everything out. As I explained my thoughts, Claire's voice occasionally chimed in with encouragement and suggestions, her excitement fueling my own. The conversation came alive, each idea bouncing between us like electricity until the pieces finally fell into place. We can have a guest list that marks the who's who of Riverside Heights. Invite everyone except him. Imagine him peering through the crowd, knowing he is not welcome. I grinned, the corners of my mouth curling as I pictured the scene. Claire started chuckling, her laughter infectious, helping me shed layers of my anxious skin. That's brilliant, Jenna. Picture this. He shows up thinking he can charm his way back in, and instead he finds a whole bunch of people living it up without him. He won't know what hit him. Exactly. I could hardly contain the excitement in my voice, and as the party builds, I'll be right in the center, completely unfazed by his presence. I envisioned the scene, my body moving effortlessly on the dance floor, laughter mingling with the music, while Mark quietly seethed on the sidelines, a ghost of what we could have been. The party would be my stage, a triumph over the downfall of our relationship. Claire's voice sliced through my thoughts again, and I could hear the determination lacing her words. All right, let's do this. I'm on board. Let's show him he made the biggest mistake of his life. We chatted for a while longer, outlining invitations, decorations, and everything in between. The more we discussed it, the more electric the air around me became, buzzing with possibilities. I will send out the invitations tonight, she promised, and I could practically hear her scribbling down names. For the first time in days, I felt like I had something to look forward to. This party could be a catharsis, a release, a chance for me to reclaim my power. As I hung up the call, euphoria coursed through my veins. I grabbed a glass from the sink and filled it with water. The rush of cool liquid washing over me was invigorating, grounding me as I steadied my resolve. It was time to execute the first part of my plan. Underneath that, though, a whisper of caution slithered through my thoughts. All this risk, would it really be worth it? I shook my head again, forcing myself to silence that nagging voice. Mark didn't deserve my empathy. Not now. Not after what he had done. A wave of anger washed over me, stronger than any doubt, and I felt ready to embrace this journey I had set forth. The rest of the evening passed in a blur as I wrote down the guest list in meticulous detail, feeling the anticipation build with each checkmark I put next to names. I listed down the people who had seen us together, the friends I would showcase my freedom to, the neighbors who had once whispered tales of our happiness. They were all about to play a part in this drama of my design. With every name, I felt as though I was knitting a web, tightening my grip on the narrative I wanted to control. That night sleep came fitfully. Visions of the party danced behind my eyelids, intermingling with dreams of what was soon to become a beautiful chaos. When morning broke, I could barely contain my excitement. The sun shone brightly through the blinds, bathing my bedroom in golden light. I got up, an overwhelming sense of purpose fueling my every action. After the mundane routine of breakfast, I threw myself into more planning, pen in hand, scribbling a list of potential party themes while bouncing ideas back and forth with Claire over text. It was as if everything started to click. At last, I felt alive. This would be my statement. By the time the sun began to dip low in the sky, I had transformed my vision into a vibrant reality with decorations artfully strewn around my house, and music selected from an array of upbeat playlists I curated just for the occasion. I had never felt so empowered, so free just a few days after feeling completely shattered. But before I knew it, the moment I had been waiting for had arrived, the night of the party. With the fragrance of freshly cut flowers mingling with snacks along the table, the atmosphere took on an enchanting glow. The music pulsed through the air, and as laughter began to weave itself among conversations, I could hardly contain my excitement. People poured in as expected, and the tight-knit community I had grown up with transformed the house into a lively space filled with warmth. I moved from group to group, effortlessly slipping into conversations, laughing and dancing as the night unfolded. Each moment felt like sweet revenge, a tangible reflection of everything Mark had taken from me when he betrayed my trust. Then the doorbell rang. I paused, my heart momentarily halting as I exchanged glances with Claire across the room. I could feel a rush of exhilaration fill the air like electricity as curiosity bubbled up within me. "Is that him?" Claire whispered, visibly agitated, but there was something else behind her words. Was she excited too? My breath quickened as I walked toward the door, doubts peppering my mind. Would he show up? Would he dare? As I flung open the door, the sight before me both shocked and delighted. There he stood, Mark. He looked caught off guard, dressed sharply in a fitted shirt that clung to him in all the right ways, yet the tension behind his eyes was unmistakable. "Jenna," he stammered, visibly surprised. I was in the neighborhood. I felt the smirk pulling at the corners of my lips, the satisfaction bubbling within me radiating confidence I had long thought lost. Really, you decided to drop by when you were specifically not invited? My voice dripped with sarcasm, and his cheeks colored slightly as if I had dealt him a blow. Behind me, I heard laughter and chatter fade. The room had begun to take notice of his unwelcome appearance. I just wanted to see how you were doing, he uttered, attempting to salvage some semblance of dignity. And yet here you are among all these people you used to know. I gestured to the open space filled with familiar faces, and like a spotlight, every eye in the room turned to him. Mark stood frozen, realizing quickly that he had miscalculated. Jenna, please, the desperation clung to his voice like a lifeline. I savored this moment, hovering on the edge of power I had long thought lost to me. You don't get to call me that anymore. You gave up the right the moment you decided to throw away our relationship. His silence radiated embarrassment and panic, and a part of me reveled in his discomfort. This was only the beginning, a mere sliver of the retribution that awaited him. My lips curled into a smile as I stepped back from the door, leaving it wide open for him to see the party he had chosen to abandon. Enjoy the view, Mark. I hope it's as enlightening as it is painful. With that, I closed the door firmly, leaving him standing there, grasping for the fleeting semblance of control he had lost. The music swelled once more, laughter erupted from every corner, and I felt the weight of 1,000 burdens lift off my shoulders. I could finally breathe. The consequences of impulsiveness came crashing back upon me, but this time it felt like a celebration rather than a burden. What lay ahead was no longer a question of what Mark had done, but what I was finally discovering about myself. I stood there, staring at the cracked wall of my old room, the fading lavender paint peeling just enough to create jagged edges that whispered stories I had long since buried. The air in Riverside Heights was thick with the memories of laughter, love, and betrayal, each breath giving me a strange mixture of nostalgia and bile. I could hear the dull thrum of traffic just outside, a reminder that life persisted, indifferent to the chaos brewing inside me. Removing the small box from under my bed felt like engaging a long-dormant beast. It shook with dust and secrets as I unearthed the very vessel of my past. My fingers trembled, and a small tremor of excitement coursed through me. This box, filled with old photographs, concert tickets, and letters, symbolized a time before I knew the pain that shadows so many of my cherished memories. As my heart raced, I opened it, each item suffused with a bittersweet aroma. I pulled out a photograph of Ryan and me, grinning like fools under the summer sun, the corners of the picture crumbling at the edges just like my trust in him. I remembered how he had looked at me then, full of promise, forever. You and me, Jenna. We're unstoppable, he'd said, tossing an arm around my shoulder, pulling me into a warmth that now felt like a distant dream. But that feeling faded quickly as I thought about the betrayal, the way he chose my best friend Leela over me, reducing my dreams to ashes. Unstoppable, I whispered bitterly into the silence, more like destructible. I set the photo down carefully, not wanting to crush its significance under my growing anger. I had spent too long hiding from the truth, letting their betrayal warp my spirit. But that was about to change. Then I felt it in my pocket, the small silver key I had taken from Ryan's apartment, the key that would unlock the door to the future I had meticulously planned. My mind raced with possibilities. That key could open the door to my true revenge, and I could feel a shiver run through me at the thought. Ryan had it all, and I had nothing left to lose. You think you can just go on living your perfect life while I rot? I muttered under my breath, clenching my fists tightly. My phone buzzed from the bed, breaking my train of thought. It was a group chat notification from Leela, and my heart sank as I saw the words jump out at me like daggers. Hey everyone, party at Ryan's tonight. Can't wait to see you all. The audacity, the ignorance. I hadn't seen Leela in months, ever since everything fell apart. The last time I had faced her, it had felt like standing in front of a mirror that reflected not only my heartbreak but the humiliation I had kept hidden away. Jenna, I never meant for it to happen like that, she had pleaded, her eyes shining with tears that seemed so insincere. You have to understand, but I had cut her off, every word she said painful to my ears as the jagged hurt poured out of me. Understand what? That you stole my happiness, that you didn't think it would matter. I thought we were friends, I had stormed out, leaving behind the hollow echoes of betrayal and lies. I took a deep breath, forcing all of that anger to coalesce into something sharp, something focused. I could not let this opportunity slip away. It was time to reclaim my life and make them feel the burn of my absence while I turned their joy into dread. I sent a quick response to the group chat, trying to sound casual. Sure, I can swing by, I'll bring something. There, I was in. The thought of walking through Ryan's threshold sent chills of anticipation down my spine, and as I finished typing, I could almost taste the sweetness of my impending revenge. The stage was set, and my heart raced with a mix of fear and exhilaration. By the time night fell, the amber glow of street lamps lit up Riverside Heights in a muted glow, my pulse thrumming like a drum as I pulled up to Ryan's building. The hum of laughter spilled through the door, intertwining with the fresh aroma of fried food and the unmistakable scent of spilled beer. I could feel every pulse of sound vibrating against my skin, urging me forward. It was everything I had loathed yet craved, a twisted reminder of what had been so savagely ripped away. Taking a moment to gather myself, I fixed my hair, letting it cascade around my shoulders, and checked my reflection in the window's surface, preparing for the masked reunion. As I stepped across the threshold, the noise surged to envelop me, bathing me in warmth and chaos. The living room was filled with familiar faces, each contorted in joy. "Jenna, you made it," Ryan's voice boomed over the din, and my heart wrenched as I turned to face him. He looked the same, his dark hair a tousle, eyes sparkling with life, though the joy that flashed in his expression felt like poison on my tongue. "I didn't think you'd come," he said, half smirking, his confidence seemingly unperturbed. "I would not miss a party for the world," I replied, forcing a smile that did not touch my eyes. Leela stood nearby, a drink in her hand, caught mid-chuckle with some other friends. She turned, her laughter cutting off as our gazes locked. I could see the moment realization dawned on her, the smile faded, replaced with uncertainty. I could almost hear her thoughts like echoes in a canyon. What is she doing here? But I didn't care. Steeling myself, I approached with intention. "Jenna." Leela finally called out, her voice strained with feigned cheer. "So good to see you." The subtle tremor in her voice betrayed her, a part of me savored it. "You look great," she was fumbling, and it nearly made me laugh. For a brief moment I could see her vulnerability, the way she faltered under my gaze as her joy felt forced. "Thanks, you too," I shot back, biting my tongue as the lies danced in my throat, pulsating with the urge to set fire to our past. "Come on, let me get you a drink," Leela rushed to say, leading me toward the kitchen where the air was saturated with rich aromas, mingling with the clinking of glasses and laughter spilling into every corner. Behind me, Ryan moved, his large frame lending an imposing presence that was comfortingly familiar yet utterly foreign now. I stayed focused on Leela, trying to ignore the pull of my lingering feelings for him as we reached the counter. "What can I get you?" she asked, her cheeks flushed, eyes darting around as if seeking rescue. "Surprise me," I said, my tone laced with sweetness that coated my intentions like a venomous charm. As she poured a drink, I quietly assessed her, watching the way her fingers trembled slightly around the glass. "So how have you been since everything?" I kept my gaze steady, willing her to squirm under the weight of her guilt. "Oh, you know," she stammered, not meeting my eyes. "I've been busy, work's been crazy. I miss you. Do you?" I asked, tilting my head, allowing a hint of mockery to sneak into my voice. "Seems like you've managed pretty well without me." She flinched visibly, causing an electric thrill to rush through me. "Jenna, I know I messed up, but can't we just move past it? I'm sorry," she said, desperation staining her tone as she finally met my eyes. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "I get it, Leela," I said, maintaining eye contact, watching as the party continued in the background, their laughter and merriment seemingly mocking me. "But it does not mean I can just forget. It's a little hard to move past something that hurts so deeply." I felt my voice drop a notch, focusing on drawing out her discomfort. "Is there anything I can do?" she asked, her voice wavering, and in that moment I could see my friend unraveling under the pressure of her lies. "Let's just enjoy the party," I said, dismissing her. "I'm just here for a good time." I raised my glass, taking a long sip, feeling the burn of alcohol lace through me, igniting every nerve. But every flicker of warmth was matched by the cold satisfaction wrapping around my heart. As the revelry continued, I edged away from Leela and into the chaotic living room. Ryan had begun to mingle, laughter echoing around him as he held court with his friends. He was effortlessly charming, the center of attention, just as he had always been. I felt my heart jump at the sight of him when he caught my eye again. "Looks like you're having fun," he said, his tone light though his gaze lingered, curious and searching. "Just trying to catch up with old friends," I replied coolly, forcing nonchalance into my demeanor, even as I felt the familiar waves of anger threatening to overcome my well-planned facade. "Leela looks happy to see you," he commented, glancing toward her, and for a moment his expression pulsed with something I could not quite read. Was it guilt, regret? The fleeting feeling bolstered my resolve to continue with my plan. Whatever it took, they would feel the weight of their actions. "Really, what a surprise," I replied, a hint of sardonic humor in my tone. "Come on, Jenna," he protested lightly, but I could hear the edge creeping into his voice, a warning or a plea hard to tell which. "You know how it is, no one plans for these things." "Yes," I replied sharply, but knowing and doing are two very different things. The air grew charged between us, a tension that I could feel wrapping around us like a coil, and I reveled in it, loving how I pushed him off balance. "You can't hold grudges forever, Jenna." His voice was patient, more gentle than I had expected, and for a moment I wondered if he truly meant that or if it was just another way to manipulate my feelings. Grudges, or just understanding that trust was shattered? I challenged, my voice dropping again. "I genuinely regret how things turned out," he said quietly, sincerity dripping from each word, yet I felt no sympathy. "Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to sleep with my best friend," I shot back, not letting him wiggle away from the discomfort. The room seemed to hush for a beat, shock enveloping the air, but it only confirmed my intent. "Jenna, please," he looked weary. Perhaps he had thought that I would forgive him easily, that time could erase the past. "Please what?" "Pretend everything is okay, pretend like I can just push everything to the side when hurt runs this deep." I could see the emotions warring inside him, the guilt, the shame, and I wanted to press on, to squeeze the truth from him as easily as when he had taken those parts of me. "We didn't plan this," he answered feebly, but I saw the flicker of anger behind his eyes, buried below his facade of remorse. Didn't plan or didn't care, I asked, raising an eyebrow. What was I to you, Ryan? A placeholder until someone prettier walked by. Leela had joined the gathering crowd, her presence like a ghost haunting our exchange. Jenna, that's not fair, Ryan retorted, frustration spilling behind his words as I felt my heart pound. No, it is fair, you made your choice, I took a breath, letting the moment linger, feeling empowered. And tonight I have made mine, you think everything can remain unchanged. Before he could respond, I turned my back, walking toward the kitchen area, needing to regain my composure and remove myself from the charged atmosphere, adrenaline coursing through my veins like fire. The laughter took on a muffled sound as I drew closer to the fridge, searching for a drink to steady my nerves. I could hear snippets of conversation floating through the air, but my mind was whirling with determination. I felt more alive now than I had in months, every part of me relishing this moment of dominance, of reclaiming my voice. Leela followed me, clearly desperate to mend the cracks of our shattered friendship. Jenna, please, I am not ready to talk to you, I said sharply, my emotions still volatile, needing distance not comfort. Just hear me out, she begged, but all I could think about was how easily she could break me when all I wanted was to hurt her as badly as she had hurt me. Anger roared within me, the burn of revenge tightening its grip. Why, so you can tell me how it wasn't your fault, I spat, my voice low, vibrating with fury. Because I want to be your friend again, she protested, sorrow flooding her blue eyes, but I felt nothing but an overwhelming desire to show her the repercussions of her choices. You lost that chance the moment you chose him, I replied coldly, feeling the steel hardness of resolve ground me. The rest of the night passed in a haze of laughter and unspoken tensions, every conversation stinging my pride a little sharper. I could feel their eyes on me, shooting furtive glances, watching my every move as if expecting me to crack under the pressure, but deep down I reveled in their discomfort. I was no longer the broken girl they had left behind. I was made of something stronger now, forged in fire and rebellion. My heart raced as the party thrummed on around me, an unyielding wave of memories and regrets washing against the shore of my daunting plan. I could see the smile hanging on Ryan's lips as he downed drinks and played the charming host, but I was determined to put an end to that illusion. Let's dance, someone shouted, and I felt the pull of the music, the vibrant beats echoing through the air. I found myself getting lost in the rhythm, edging toward a wall of bodies, surrendering to the infectious energy of the moment. In some twisted sense, I felt empowered as I moved, the weight of revenge clawing at me with every step. In the back of my mind, the plan emerged, one piece at a time. As partners twirled on the makeshift dance floor, I thought about the moments I had left to shape this narrative. I needed a way to make Ryan feel the stakes, to turn joy into dread, and as I danced, that thought took root deep within me. Sure, I realized my heart was racing for a multitude of reasons, but now every thrum resonated with purpose. Tonight would end with them knowing they would remember Jenna Foster, the girl they thought they discarded so easily. I was more than just a boy's heartache or a friend's betrayal. I felt finally alive and able to reclaim their shattered dreams. I was going to make Ryan wish he had never crossed me, and Leela would become a shadow of regret, lost forever in the cry of my vengeance. The room swayed as I continued dancing, each beat pulling tighter at the threads of my plan, the very fabric of retribution woven into the smiles once shared. And as I spun into the night, I knew that the aftermath of all this wouldn't just ripple, it would crack the very foundation of their lives. The time for revenge was coming, and they would remember, for nothing could erase Jenna Foster from their memories. And this was only the beginning. I stepped into the dimly lit back room of the grotto, the old bar that had become a relic of my childhood. The wooden floors creaked beneath my feet, echoing memories of laughter mingled with the clink of glasses and whispers of secrets shared. It was strange being back here, where I had once spent evenings lost in a haze of teenage dreams. Now the air felt heavy with purpose, thick enough to cut through with a knife weighed down by my impending confrontation. I could smell the stale beer and old cigarettes that hung in the air like a ghost haunting its past. I took a deep breath, letting the familiar scent wash over me, grounding me as I prepared to face the shadows of my revenge. I had come this far, and there was no turning back now. The energy in the room was different from what I remembered. It was dark, more sinister. I spotted a small group gathered at the bar, their laughter too loud for the half-empty space, concealing any sense of dread that might lurk beneath their jovial exteriors. As I walked further inside, I caught sight of Jack sitting at a booth in the corner. His back was towards me, his silhouette leaning against the worn leather seat, the dim light catching the edges of his messy hair. I felt a surge of anger course through me as I watched him tap his fingers against the table, oblivious to the storm that was about to break hard and fast. "Jenna," he called without turning around, almost as if he had sensed my presence before I had even stepped close. The sound of his voice was enough to send a chill racing down my spine. "You made it. I was beginning to think you were going to ghost me." He finally turned, flashing that boyish grin that once had the power to melt my heart. Now it only served to fuel the ire building inside me. "Why would I ghost you, Jack? I'm here for a very important reason," I retorted as I slid into the booth opposite him. The air between us crackled with the weight of years of hurt and betrayal. You know that, right? His smile faltered as he leaned forward, his expression shifting to one of curiosity tinged with a hint of concern. Look, I know things haven't been great between us since everything. But I don't think showing up like this is going to solve anything. There was that tone, defensive yet pleading, like he was already preparing for excuses before I could even lay out my truth. I clenched my fists beneath the table, feeling the worn surface dig into my palms. How could he act so nonchalant? Did he really think he could just brush past the wreckage he had left behind? You think none of this matters, Jack. You think showing up here in the same old haunt makes it all feel casual. This is about more than just us. You destroyed everything, my trust, my life, my chances. My voice escalated, and I could feel the stares from the other patrons on us, their curious glances filling the silence I desperately wanted to break. His brows knitted in confusion as he tried to hold my gaze, but I was furious, too furious to let him look away. Jenna, listen, I didn't mean for things to get so out of hand. I thought, he began, but I cut him off. What did you think, that I would just come to terms with the fact that you made a fool out of me, that I would forget that you chose them over me, choose money over loyalty? I could see the struggle behind his eyes, the way he opened his mouth to speak, then shut it as if trying to absorb the punch of my words. He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. I wasn't thinking, not then anyway. You know, I got sucked into something bigger than either of us. Oh, spare me the excuses, Jack, you were so quick to throw everything away. I was shouting now, the tremor in my voice betraying how much of the hurt still lingered. You called yourself my friend, and now you want to sit here and tell me you were sucked into something bigger? You cut me out of your life for what? For a chance to be someone worth knowing. To play at being high and mighty. The tightening of his jaw made me feel victorious in a way, like I could finally pierce through the armor he had built so meticulously around himself. He uncoiled from his tense posture and leaned back in the booth, running a hand over his face as if trying to wipe away the mess of guilt that was clearly heavier than he could admit. Jenna, I never meant for you to find out that way. You know I wanted to protect you. Protect me by leaving me behind. By signing me out of my own life. My chest felt tight, the weight of betrayal heavy enough to crush me. You had no right at all. Do you even understand the consequences of what you did? He opened his mouth, a flicker of something like remorse crossing his features. I do now at least, but please, let's try and work this out somehow. We used to be good together. There has to be a way back from this. His words struck a nerve, dragging forth memories of happier times, the two of us executing endless schemes as kids, making promises to each other that we would always have each other's backs. Memories that now felt like poison arrows lodged deep in my heart. You really think we can go back to being friends after everything? You think apologies can fix this? I just want a chance to explain. To show you that I can be better, he pleaded, his voice softening, that little thread of hope spilling from his lips. He leaned forward, desperation coloring his features. I was wrong, Jenna, that's all I can say. Can't that count for something? A bitter laugh bubbled up within me. Count for something? I matched his intensity, my voice lowering to a low, threatening tone. Do you honestly believe that an apology is enough? You cost me everything. While you were busy climbing whatever ladder of success you thought was important, I was left to pick up my shattered world alone. His gaze dropped, unable to meet mine, and for a moment silence stood between us like a wall. I could feel my heart racing, the anger still bubbling but softened by the memory of the friendship we once had. Finally, he sighed deeply, his shoulders slumped in a defeated way that almost stirred a small pang of sympathy within me. What can I do then? How can I make this better? I leaned back slightly, contemplating my next words carefully as the anger began to mutate into something more complicated. There's no making it better, Jack, not like you think. I could feel the edges of a plan formulating in my mind, one that brought a twisted satisfaction. You made your choices, now you need to face the consequences. His eyes widened, confusion giving way to fear. Jenna, what do you mean? I slid a piece of paper across the table, the crumpled edges whispering tales of my meticulous plotting. You've got work to do. Redemption isn't handed out like a free pass anymore. You owe me, and I want you to return what you stole. What I stole? Jenna, I didn't take anything from you. You know that. This is all a misunderstanding. His voice rose in pitch, panic setting in as he grasped the paper, quickly unfolding it to reveal a detailed listing. Names of the people involved, the businesses, the backroom deals, the betrayals that had been springing from his foolish ambition that had put a rift between us wide enough to drown a city. Do you really think this is some kind of joke? You wanted to play the big leagues, didn't you? Well, now you are truly in one. This is what you need to do to fix this. It starts on your end, understanding the damage and taking responsibility for those choices. Everyone you harmed. My voice dripped with frustration. Jenna, this isn't fair. You cannot expect me to just fix everything. People don't just listen to me. From the looks of things, you've built a life where people do listen to you, Jack. Or is it only your friends that you ignore? You wanted me out of the way so you could climb higher no matter who fell, didn't you? This is your chance to prove you are more than just a schemer. Fix this for them, do it for yourself, do it for me. He pushed away from the table, the tension in the air wrapping around us like a tightening vice. I could feel his heartbeat pounding as loud as a war drum. What if I can't? What if I fail? Then you know what happens next, I snapped, allowing myself a moment to recall the twisted glee I had once thought of in my revenge plans. The damage will only multiply, and you lose more than my trust. You will lose every shred of credibility you've built, the very thing that once made you the person I thought I knew. I hate you for this, Jack shouted, his voice breaking through the heavy silence enveloping the room once more. You are making a monstrous mistake, Jenna. The fire in my chest ignited again, rekindling a blaze of hope that he would finally see the light of what he had done. No, Jack, this is not a mistake. This is reality. You have fed into your ambitions for so long you forgot what mattered. What hurts the most is you clearly thought I wasn't capable of fighting back, but here we are. He stood there for a moment, caught between the shadows of regret and the future stretching out for him. The brief flicker of something resembling understanding crossed his face as I watched the gears turn in his mind. Your plan, it could work, he whispered, softening the blow. What do you want from me? Everything, Jack. I want everything back. The people you discarded, the promises you broke. You have a chance to take that back. That's what I want, what I deserve. Jenna, his voice was uncertain now, tinged with a creeping acceptance. You have until Friday, 5 days. Show me you are willing to work for it. If not, this will all hit the public as it should, and I won't protect you. I will do it, he replied, the panic fading and replaced by a slow-burning determination lighting within him, though I could see the shadows still lurking behind his eyes. Nostalgia clung to the air around us like thick fog, memories swirling back to haunt us both. Then let's see if you can finally become someone worth knowing again, Jack. The finality of my words lingered in the air long after I stood and left, a symbolic closing of the door that had remained open for too long. As I stepped back into the world outside, the cool night air enveloped me like a blanket, a welcome chill against the heat of adrenaline still rushing through my veins. I had laid down the gauntlet. Now I could only wait and see if he would rise to the challenge or fall back into the shadows. The sun hung low in the Riverside Heights sky, casting long shadows across the street as I walked toward the old brick building that had housed my dreams and nightmares. My heart raced with every step, a metronome ticking away the seconds until I faced them again. This would be my final act, the closing chapter of a story drenched in betrayal and revenge. The thrum of the city filled my ears, laughter, the clatter of footsteps, the distant sound of cars navigating the early evening traffic. But none of it penetrated the bubble I had created, where I was alone with my thoughts and my purpose. Tonight I was not Jenna Foster, the girl they once knew. I was a specter of strength forged in the fires of deception, ready to confront the very people who had shattered my trust and my life. The sun dipped behind the horizon, and I felt the chill of dusk seep into my bones. As I approached the entrance, I took a deep breath to steady myself, the air thick with the scent of rain-soaked pavement and impending change inside. The dim lighting set the stage for the drama I was about to unleash. I spotted them almost immediately. Tyler and Vanessa sat at a corner table in the bustling cafe, laughter bubbling between them while they shared a plate of dessert. It had been a significant day for them, celebrating their latest achievement without me, the success of their new business venture, the one I had originally conceived and built from the ground up before they had kicked me out of my own dreams. A bitter smile crossed my lips as I took in the scene, their obliviousness only stoking the fire within me. Tyler, with his tousled dark hair and charming smile, was animated as he spoke. I could almost hear his voice floating through the murmur of conversation, sweet like honey, masking the poison beneath. Vanessa, on the other hand, was graceful yet cunning, her bright eyes sparkling with mischief as she leaned in closer to him, whispering secrets of conformity and partnership that had been shared at my expense. They looked happy, and that happiness dug at my insides like a sharp knife, reminding me of the trust they had so easily discarded. I rolled my shoulders back, grounding myself in that moment. This was it, no more hiding in the shadows, no more playing the victim. It was time to reclaim my voice, time to show them that I was done being the forgotten one. I moved through the tightly packed tables, glancing at the faces that flitted past me, people I barely recognized, their conversations swirling around me like a maelstrom. Each heartbeat felt like thunder in my ears, kicking up the adrenaline coursing through my veins. With determined strides, I approached their table and slammed my palms down on the smooth wood, the sudden impact silencing their laughter. Tyler looked up first, his grin faltering as his eyes widened in realization. Jenna, he breathed, disbelief etched on his handsome features. What are you doing here? Vanessa's mouth drooped as she processed my appearance, her usual composed demeanor cracking. You save it, Vanessa, I interrupted, cutting her off with a wave of my hand. I am here to talk. And I do not want any more lies spilling from your lips. I want the truth. Tyler shot up from his seat, scrubbing a hand through his hair as he took a step back. This isn't the place for this conversation. Can we discuss it somewhere else? I laughed, a cold, humorless sound that echoed off the cafe walls. Oh no, Tyler, this is exactly where I wanted to have this conversation. I want an audience. I leaned in closer, narrowing my eyes at him. I want everyone here to see what you and Vanessa have done to ruin my life. His eyes flitted around the cafe, gauging the reactions of the strangers at nearby tables. Jenna, please, let's sit down, and do you remember Tyler? I continued, my voice rising with emotion. Do you remember when it was the three of us? We had dreams filled with possibilities, plans to build something amazing together. You promised to support me. And then what happened? The tension hung thick in the air, and I could see the wheels turning in his head as he struggled to find the right words, the right escape. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out, and I felt a rush of satisfaction bloom within me. The tables were turning. Vanessa straightened up in her chair, a hint of indignation flashing across her face. You know it was a business decision, Jenna. You were the one who didn't want to move forward. You kept dragging your feet. Her voice rose defensively, but I could see the cracks in her facade. You left us no choice. No choice, I shook my head, feeling my anger bubble over. You had plenty of choices, and you chose betrayal. You chose greed over integrity. You threw away everything we built together for what? A shiny new office and a slice of my hard work. I made you both who you are today. Stop it, Tyler finally muttered, his body tense like a coiled spring. This isn't going to help anyone. Help. I scoffed, the derision dripping from my words. You think this is about helping? This is about the truth. Your truth. You owe me that much. I turned to look at Vanessa, my gaze unyielding. You took my vision and paraded it as your own. You exploited my ideas and turned everyone against me. Do you feel proud of that? She opened her mouth, but I cut her off again, my adrenaline pushing me forward. You were my friend. That's what your betrayal cuts the deepest. I trusted you, both of you. I never saw this coming, and that was my greatest mistake, one I won't make again. Jenna, we thought you were done with that place, Tyler attempted, desperation creeping into his tone. And you seem to be moving on. We never meant to hurt you. It is too late for your half-hearted apologies. I should not have to beg for recognition or respect from people who were supposed to be my allies. This isn't about your excuses anymore. I stepped closer to them, my voice lowering to a fierce whisper. It is about accountability. I won't let you get away with this. Vanessa scoffed, her confidence returning slightly. And how do you think you're going to do that? You think you can just barge in here and declare war? You really have no idea how these things work, do you? Is that a challenge? I shot back, my heart pounding. Because I have been plotting my comeback for months. I have every detail worked out, and I still have a few tricks up my sleeve. I might not have a business, but I have something you both lack, the truth on my side. Whatever you think you're planning, Tyler started, but I cut him off again. Do you want to hear the details? I have evidence, conversations, emails, everything documenting how you drove me out. I have witnesses lined up to tell my side of the story. You've painted me as the failure, the weak link. But the truth is, you can't silence me anymore. Vanessa threw back her head and laughed, the sound cruel and derisive. You think you can bring us down, you think people will believe you against us. You're small time, Jenna, you're not coming back from this. No, I said, matching her intensity and standing taller. I won't be going back to the way things used to be, but I won't be forgotten either. You will remember who I am when I expose you for what you truly are, and trust me, I will. Is this really how you want it to end? Tyler looked pained, his features a mixture of regret and fear. There's still a way we can work things out. You don't have to do this. Let's all have a meeting with the investors and come to an agreement. But did you even think about how that would play out? You think you can just erase what you did to me? I shot back, the words feeling liberating as they left my lips. That I would be okay with you glossing over the hurt you caused, burying it under your gilded plans? Of course not. You want to dance around the past like it never happened. But I won't forget. I can't forget. The tension was palpable, the cafe patrons glancing our way, whispering amongst themselves. I gathered strength from their attention, from the eyes on me that silently urged me to press on. I am not going to be a victim anymore. No longer will I allow you to dictate my story. Jenna, you're making a mistake, Vanessa said hurriedly, her voice lowering as she began to realize the extent of my resolve. We could have bridged this gap instead of tearing each other apart. Bridging a gap suggests a willingness to meet halfway, but you burned that bridge when you decided my ideas were up for grabs. There is no space for negotiation. The time for talking has long passed. This is about reclaiming my narrative, and I am taking back my voice. Tyler took a step forward, desperation coloring his tone. What do you want then? Money, resources? We can work together again if we can just... I want what is mine, Tyler. I want credit where credit is due. If you cannot treat me fairly, I will take action. I could see the fear in their eyes. They knew I was serious, that I meant every word. You might have gotten a head start, but I have worked too hard to let you just walk away unscathed. A nerve-piercing silence enveloped us as they exchanged glances, their expressions a concoction of confusion and disbelief. I felt triumphant and liberated, the weight of anger that had held me down for so long lifting, revealing a strength I had forgotten I possessed. This was my moment, the resolution to everything they had taken from me. Vanessa crossed her arms defiantly, but the flicker of fear in her eyes betrayed the truth. You are bluffing. You don't really think anyone will take you seriously, do you? Try me, I responded, my voice unwavering. I am not afraid anymore. I refuse to be a ghost in your story. You thought I was beaten, but you have only created a new version of me, one who sees through your lies and refuses to back down. There was a moment of silence, thick with unspoken implications. I watched as the realization settled in. They had underestimated me, mistaking my silence for weakness. But now I could see their air of confidence faltering, their backs against the wall of consequences. A beeping sound pierced the air, Tyler's phone buzzing on the table, jolting him from his deliberation. He picked it up, grimacing at the incoming message. I have to take this, he said, glancing at me one last time as he stepped aside, speaking in hushed tones. Vanessa turned her focus back to me, eyes blazing with a mixture of fear and anger. This isn't over, Jenna. You'll regret this. Regret is reserved for those who recognize their mistakes. The only thing I regret is not taking action sooner. It's over for you too, I said, the fire still blazing in my chest. Then, as if to signal the end of our confrontation, I turned away from her and walked straight toward the exit. I didn't look back, but I could feel the weight of their stares on my back, a reminder of the fear I had instilled in them. The world outside seemed brighter, infused with a sense of purpose that I had longed for. The cool breeze brushed against my skin as I stepped onto the sidewalk, and I inhaled deeply, feeling every breath fill my lungs with the promise of liberation. This was just the beginning, the first chapters of a new narrative where I was the heroine of my story. I had taken the first steps toward claiming the power I had once surrendered, and I felt unstoppable. The fear that had once gripped my heart loosened its hold, paving the way for determination and strength. I was ready to rewrite my destiny, and they would remember this night, this moment when they had underestimated me. As I walked away from that cafe with my head held high, I felt like I was finally stepping into my truth, ready to embrace the twists of fate that lay ahead. It was just a matter of time before they would learn that sometimes the greatest revenge is finding your own voice and refusing to be silenced ever again.